My 19-year-old stepdaughter made me tremble with delight. Occasionally, a single instant can dismantle all your preconceived notions. A brief look, a gentle caress from my stepdaughter. And in an instant, I found myself falling into a realm I had never envisioned. It started with a spark I hadn't experienced in years, a flicker of something I could hardly identify. Her presence radiated with a refreshing vibrancy, youthful and bright, akin to a sudden burst of summer sunlight piercing through a prolonged, dreary winter. The house had an altered atmosphere in Michael's absence, quieter in certain respects, more liberated in others, yet this evening, the atmosphere felt electric, the silence thick with potential. Annie came in with her typical brightness, her laughter echoing through the rooms like a tune I hadn't known I longed for. We passed the night like long-lost friends reconnecting. Sharing stories that flowed seamlessly from one to another, there was a sense of joy, playful banter, and an intimacy I had seldom permitted myself to experience. Her vibrancy was infectious. And as the evening deepened, so did the closeness of our conversation. As we settled onto the couch, enveloped in the gentle embrace of blankets and the soft murmur of a classic film flickering in the background, the mood transformed. She nestled against me, her head gently resting on my shoulder. It was a moment that felt effortlessly natural, yet beneath the surface lay an undercurrent of something far more profound. I attributed it to the wine, or maybe the soothing embrace of shared comfort. Yet her warmth beside me was undeniable. Her laughter faded, and I glanced at her, our faces nearer than I had expected. In that moment, I became aware of how her gaze held on, gentle yet focused, as if it were probing for something that remained unvoiced. My breath caught, and before I could fully grasp the moment, her lips grazed mine, tentative and fleeting, like the whisper of a kiss. Not yet subscribed to Nasty Talks. Press that subscribe button now to be the first to discover our stories each day. A jolt coursed through me, immobilizing me completely for a moment. I believed it to be an error, a whimsical act misunderstood. As I stepped back to gaze into her wide, startled eyes, I noticed the vulnerability within them. The fear of rejection lingering just beneath the surface. She withdrew swiftly, whispering her regrets, her face flushed with warmth. And yet, instead of pushing the distance away, I felt my hand rising, my fingers brushing against her cheek in a gentle, comforting caress. The apologies ceased, her words fading into quiet as our eyes met. In her eyes, there was an unguarded, raw, and hopeful quality that struck a chord within me, awakening a part one believed had long been buried. The second kiss was intentional. It was neither rushed nor uncertain. It was intentional. Unvoiced yet shared, her lips were soft, her touch careful, almost reverent, as if she feared the delicacy of the moment. I found myself leaning in, my body instinctively in pursuit of her essence. As each moment slipped away, the external world diminished into insignificance. My heart raced like it hadn't in years. I was uncertain about the direction of this journey, or its significance. Yet I couldn't ignore the warmth flowing within me. A warmth that whispered for the first time in eras that I existed. Her touch was tentative at first, reminiscent of an artist standing before a pristine canvas, uncertain about the initial stroke, yet the pause only intensified the closeness, amplifying each instant as her fingertips grazed the delicate contour of my neck. My skin reacted instinctively, tingling in their presence, a gentle shiver coursing through me. Her breath was near, shallow and warm against my jawline, each exhale igniting a fire just underneath the exterior. I closed my eyes, releasing all questions and doubts that lingered within me. The realm outside the couch faded into oblivion. The gentle touch of her fingers intertwined with the rhythmic beat of her heart against my own. Her trembling hands seemed to reflect the internal quiver of my own vulnerability. This was more than just a touch. It was an entrance to a realm neither of us completely grasped. Yet we were eager to delve into. Her fragrance was captivating, a delicate mix of vitality and an essence that was uniquely hers, floral undertones, mingled with the faintest trace of something sweeter. A natural warmth that drew me in, making me lean unconsciously closer. Her fingers glided down, caressing the curve of my shoulder, following the delicate line where the The material of my blouse brushed against my bare skin. The feeling was nearly overwhelming, not due to its strength but because of its gentleness. Its power to expose aspects of myself I had long hidden away. I sensed her uncertainty, the silent inquiry hanging in the atmosphere around us. My hand, seemingly guided by its own will, lifted to intertwine with hers, my fingers gently resting over hers in a wordless agreement. Her breath caught, a soft gasp that seemed to recognize the delicacy of this fleeting moment. This collective jump into the unfamiliar. She leaned in closer, her hair brushing softly against my cheek, its silkiness a gentle, unintentional touch. My hand moved, drawn by some magnetic pull, grazing the small of her back where her sweater had ridden up. The warmth of her skin beneath my fingertips sent a deep longing surged within me. An ache I hadn't known I was still capable of feeling. Her touch grew more assured, as if strengthened by my presence. Her fingers glided over my collarbone, exploring with intentional curiosity the dip at its center, each motion. It felt leisurely, as though we possessed endless moments to explore the complexities of this newly discovered bond. Every touch unfolded like a new chapter, a moment of revelation, and I found myself completely yielding to it. The quiet of the room felt heightened. The gentle murmur of far-off city lights serves as the sole interruption. Yet, even that felt subdued in comparison to the harmony of our breaths, and the unspoken dialogue of her hands upon my skin. I was unable to discern whether seconds or hours had slipped by. Time had transformed into something insignificant, beyond measurement. Her hands pressed onward, crafting a path of warmth and enchantment. My body stirred as though emerging from a deep, prolonged sleep, every nerve tingling, every sense amplified. This transcended a mere first touch. It was the ignition of something that had been lying in wait for excessively lengthy. Her touch was gentle, nearly sacred, as though I were something valuable and delicate. As her fingers grazed my cheek, a shiver coursed through my body. A tremor that began at the sensation began at the base of my spine and radiated outward. My body felt weightless, ensnared in the gravity of her unwavering, probing stare. Her eyes appeared to absorb me, their depths mirroring a blend of awe and hesitation that reflected my own. I didn't notice I was holding my breath until her hands glided from my face, cascading down my shoulder like a gentle whisper of wind. Her fingers grazed the fabric of my blouse, then continued their journey, gliding down to meet my trembling hand. As she intertwined her fingers with mine, the warmth of her touch was grounding, anchoring me to this moment that defied reason yet felt entirely inevitable. Each movement held a delicate intention, as if she were wary of breaking the fragile connection that was forming. In the space that connects us, her uncertainty only enhanced her allure. Every intentional touch of her fingertips against my skin heightened the longing growing within me. It was a dance of openness and intimacy, one that filled me with a longing I hadn't experienced in ages. As my free hand moved of its own accord, I sensed the texture of her sweater beneath my palm. Gently, I moved the fabric upward, my fingers gliding over the smooth skin beneath. Her breath caught. I paused for a moment, scanning her expression for any hint of uncertainty. Instead, I discovered a silent beckoning. Her lips gently parted, her eyes half closed in quiet submission. As her sweater slipped away, my breath seized in my throat. The allure of her youth was unmistakable. Yet it transcended mere physicality. The manner in which she held herself, the way her body appeared to stretch towards mine as if pulled by the identical enchanting allure, held me in a trance. The delicate arch of her collarbone, the soft rhythm of her breathing, the warm radiance of her skin in the muted light, all of it captivated me. A wave of warmth flooded my being, settling deep in my core, an instinctive response I was powerless to control, no matter how hard I tried. My hand shook as I followed the curve of her arm. Sensing the delicate texture of her skin beneath my fingertips, she exuded warmth and softness, her form a vibrant tapestry of potential and fervor. For a brief instant, a surge of embarrassment loomed, ready to crash over me. I sensed the burden of time, the existence I had navigated thus far, the guidelines I had adhered to with such diligence, but then her fingers tightened around mine. Her other hand reaching up to touch my face again, and the shame melted away like frost under sunlight. Longing engulfed me, intense and unwavering. I surrendered to her touch, letting the bond that was forming between us lead the way. My hands glided with an instinctive grace, tracing the curves of her body with a sense of wonder and respect that felt profoundly sacred. This transcended mere passion, it was a profound awakening. My arm slipped around her waist, a fluid gesture that felt anything but mundane, her body tensed at first. A fleeting moment of hesitation so subtle it was nearly undetectable, before she melted into me, her warmth enveloped me gently, pressing softly against my side. I sensed her heartbeat, quick and irregular, as if it were striving to match my own rhythm. The moment was achingly fragile, reminiscent of a finely crafted glass piece gripped too firmly in quaking hands. Her breaths deepened, becoming heavier, each one a subtle rhythm that appeared to align with my own. Her lips lingered just within reach, where even the slightest movement could bridge the distance that separated us. They were gentle, subtly ajar, and irresistibly alluring. I was irresistibly attracted to them. Not through deliberate consideration, but by an instinctive force that felt as inherent and compelling as gravity itself. Her skin glowed with warmth where my fingers touched it. Moving with deliberate tenderness, each touch felt like a journey, cautious yet intentional, as if we were charting a course through unknown lands. I started at the line of her jaw, where her pulse fluttered beneath my fingertips, and traced its curve downward, stopping at the delicate hollow of her throat. Her breath caught as I lingered there, the sound sending a shiver through me. My fingers glided from her neck, following the graceful line of her ear, caressing the lobe with the gentleness of a whisper. I sensed her shiver beneath my touch, a wave of sensation that flowed through her body and into my own. Her reaction fueled my confidence, my hand gliding downward again, brushing along the curve of her collarbone, and halting just at the brink of her shoulder. Her hands discovered me in response, cautious at first, yet becoming more daring with each fleeting moment. Their warmth permeated the fabric of my blouse, kindling a subtle flame beneath my skin. She traced the length of my arm, her touch both curious and reverent, as though she were memorizing the texture and shape of me. I let her explore, savoring the way her fingertips seemed to leave sparks in their wake. There was a calmness, a sense of ease. The rhythm we established was calm, intentional, and imbued with a silent connection. Every motion posed an inquiry, receiving only a quiet response in return. My hands moved deeper, gliding along the contour of her back, sensing the firm lines of her muscles beneath her skin. She leaned into me slightly, her body responding instinctively, a subtle recognition of the bond we were forming. My fingers moved onward, exploring her arms, her hands, the softness of her fingertips. Every inch of her was a fresh discovery, a fragment of a puzzle I had only just started to piece together. In her, I discovered a blend of gentleness and resilience, openness and bravery, and I yearned to understand every facet of her being. We proceeded with caution, each touch a respectful investigation of something delicate and exquisite, something we both feared to shatter. The atmosphere seemed to pause, anticipating our next move. Her lips met mine again, this time with a daring intensity that took my breath away. The earlier uncertainty had dissipated, giving way to a fresh conviction that sent my heart racing even more. Her kiss transcended mere action, it was a proclamation, a bold assertion that coursed a thrilling jolt through every fiber of my being. Her arm tightened around me, drawing me in until every inch of space vanished, leaving only the warmth of her body, and the rhythmic pulse of our intertwined heartbeats. I sensed the strength of her grip, her hand pressing into the small of my back as if to ground me in this moment. It was both grounding and exhilarating, a reminder that this was real, that we were here, intertwined in something so raw and vibrant. Her other hand moved with intention, gliding up my arm, lingering momentarily at my shoulder before wrapping around my neck. The warmth of her touch sent ripples of sensation cascading down my spine, igniting a fire that I hadn't felt in years. She tilted her head, deepening the kiss, her lips inviting mine to dance in perfect harmony with hers. Her breath warmed my cheek, each exhale a gentle touch that intertwined with the charged atmosphere around us. I could sense her breathing change, becoming deeper and more irregular, each sound sending a chill down my spine. The closeness of her breath against my ear was intoxicating. A lure that caused me to tilt my head just a bit, beckoning her nearer, without my conscious awareness. Each of her touches was a paradox, soft yet strong, affectionate yet insistent. Her fingers navigated with a tenderness that approached reverence, yet there was an unmistakable fervor in the way her body melded with mine, her movements infused with a barely contained desire. The storm raged, wild and unyielding, yet interspersed with fleeting moments of tenderness that took my breath away. Her lips lingered from mine. A slow and intentional descent that left a burning trace in their wake. She lingered at my jawline, her kisses delicate yet powerful, igniting waves of pleasure coursing through me. As her lips brushed against the delicate hollow beneath my ear, a gasp escaped me, my hands instinctively grasping her, seeking to anchor myself amidst the overwhelming tide of sensation. Her touch blended seamlessly with mine, our movements weaving together in a dance of exploration and yielding. My hands wandered into her hair, tangling in the soft strands, drawing her nearer as if mere closeness could extinguish the rising flame between us. But the more I held her, the more I craved her presence. Her passion was a relentless and consuming force. Yet it never overwhelmed me. Instead, it drew me deeper into her, into us, until the boundaries of where she ended and I began blurred into nothingness. I had never experienced such a profound sense of being understood, such an overwhelming desire. And the sheer intensity of it all left me balancing on the brink of something I couldn't quite identify but yearned for deeply. Our bodies discovered a rhythm so instinctive that it seemed woven into the very essence of our being. Every motion drew us nearer. Not merely in a physical sense, but in ways that felt nearly unfathomable. To understand, her warmth enveloped me completely, not just in her touch, but in the way her presence seemed to fill the air around us. It was a warmth that sank deep into my core, dissolving the final traces of doubt and fear. Her embrace was unwavering and confident, yet gentle enough to feel like an explosion against the vulnerability I had long sought to hide. It felt as if she could perceive every unvoiced inquiry, every subtle doubt, and aimed to calm them with her unspoken communication. Of her form, I felt untethered, floating in this instant, where nothing beyond us held significance. I was unaware of how much time had slipped away, moments elongated into forever, and each touch of her hand, every contact of her skin against mine, unfolded in its own boundless realm. My body reacted to her, as if it had been anticipating this moment. Each cell stirs to life and flourishes beneath her touch. She moved at her own pace, allowing things to unfold naturally. She just uncovered me, journeyed through me, with an admiration that filled my soul with a beautiful pain. Her hands glided with a gentle intention, mapping delicate routes along my arms, my back, the contour of my waist. She appeared to understand intuitively where to pause, where to delve just a bit further, her touch sparking a chorus of feelings that left me quivering. My skin ignited where she made contact, every glide of her fingers igniting a blaze that surged through me like a tidal wave. With each of her movements, the emotions within me intensified. It wasn't merely the physical pleasure that took my breath away, it was the profound intimacy, the way she made me feel entirely and wholly understood. Her touch conveyed a comprehension that words could never achieve, as if she perceived every facet of me, even the fragments I had tucked away, and embraced them without a moment's doubt. There was a tantalizing allure to it all, a recognition of the boundary we were breaching that only amplified the fervor of the experience, the hidden nature of it. The understanding that this belonged to us and us alone, rendered it all the more valuable. Every sigh, every shiver, every moment we shared resonated like a secret murmured into the darkness. A treasure hidden deep within the tender intimacy we had forged. Her movements became more daring, more assured, yet always retaining the softness that set my heart racing. I sensed her trembling as well, mirroring the emotions surging within me. It felt like we were partaking in something indescribably deep. A bond that went beyond the tangible and transformed into something immensely significant. In her embrace, I experienced not merely existence, but a profound sense of liberation. She wasn't merely uncovering my essence, she was unveiling facets of my being I had yet to recognize, exposing a profound passion and yearning I had nearly lost sight of. Her trembling started as a gentle ripple, a delicate quiver beneath my touch that slowly evolved into something deeper. I sensed it emanate from her being. An unstoppable wave of delight that appeared to resonate in the atmosphere surrounding us. Her response sparked something profound within me. An energy that intertwined our beings in a manner I had never felt before. Her movements became unsteady, yet there was a rhythm to her that drew me nearer, compelling me forward, leading me as if we were two halves of a single entity. Each sigh, each shudder that slipped from her lips resonated like a song, a melody exclusive to us. One that enveloped the space between us in a symphony of feeling and intimacy. Time faded into nothingness, unraveling and slipping away, leaving us lost in the present. The bed beneath us had lost its solidity, becoming fluid, as if it had morphed into an expansive, limitless ocean. The warmth of our bodies fused into a humid, enveloping mist that softened the lines of where I ended and she began. I allowed my hands to move over her, savoring the smoothness of her skin, the warmth that throbbed beneath it. Her body flowed with mine, seamless and unvoiced, as though we were led by an instinctive connection. There was no need for words. Everything we wished to express was communicated in the press of a palm, the brush of a cheek, the shared weight of our breaths. Every inch of her seemed to react to my touch, just as I did to hers. Her hands discovered me, navigating with a blend of urgency and tenderness, each movement igniting a fresh wave of sensation that flowed through me. Her fingers curled against my skin, drawing me nearer, her hold strong yet imbued with a fragility that made my heart ache. The world around us had completely disappeared, leaving only a soft glow that highlighted the features of her face. Her expression, a blend of joy and surrender, left me utterly speechless. The sounds of the night diminished, surrendering to the gentle cadence of our breaths, and the subtle whisper of the sheets beneath us. The dampness that enveloped us was not just a physical sensation. It served as a vivid emblem of the profound connection we had experienced together. The warmth seeped into the bed, forming a cocoon of intimacy that bound us. As if the very essence of the room conspired to make this moment last forever. Her shivering subsided into a steady stillness, and I felt her body soften beneath my hands, her tension melting away like morning dew under the sun. I embraced her tightly, encircling her with my arms, as if to protect her from the chaos beyond this cherished haven. In that harmony, I discovered a tranquility I hadn't realized could exist. We were no longer two distinct beings, but rather one unified entity, connected by a bond that surpassed the physical realm. It wasn't merely enjoyment, it was a deep sense of completion, one that made me feel as if I had uncovered a piece of myself I hadn't realized was absent. Her smile radiated warmth, gentle and unpretentious, embodying the deep connection that intertwined our souls so effortlessly. In the soft glow, her eyes radiated a warmth that felt like an embrace, drawing me deeper into the intimacy we had forged. It wasn't merely a smile, it was a revelation, a subtle recognition of the bond that now pulsed between us like an unbroken thread. Her hand glided with soft intention, her palm lightly caressing my cheek. The feeling was both invigorating and calming, reminiscent of the initial beams of dawn breaking through after a tempestuous evening. I leaned into her touch, my skin alive with sensation beneath her fingers. It was a seemingly effortless act. Yet it conveyed so much, as if she were charting my essence with her fingertips, etching me into her recollection. I could no longer withstand the allure of her lips. As I approached her, I rediscovered the flavor of her presence, a harmonious mix of sweetness, and that ineffable quality that defined her so distinctly. The kiss unfolded slowly, a gentle rhythm that elongated time into a timeless experience. There was a calmness, a sense of taking one's time. It was a timeless moment captured within a fleeting minute. A universe unto itself that neither of us wished to abandon. Her arms encircled me, pulling me nearer until the distance between us vanished completely, the pressure of her form against me, the gentle heat of her skin, brought both solace and excitement simultaneously. With every kiss, her lips danced over mine, a blend of curiosity and certainty that rendered me breathless. I allowed my hands to discover her again, following the graceful contours of her back, in awe of the delicate warmth under my touch. She moved closer, her motions smooth and intentional, as if simply being beside me was enough to nourish her. It was a sharing of feelings as much as experiences, a quiet dialogue that we both grasped instinctively, her laughter, low and soft, bubbled between kisses, a sound so pure and joyful that it made my chest ache. I found myself smiling back, the edges of my lips lifting as I surrendered to the joy of the moment. Her joy radiated a warmth that enveloped me, dispelling any lingering doubts or hesitations, our breathing intertwined, the soft rhythm of it enveloping the room like a gentle tune. The gentle rise and fall of her chest pressed against mine mirrored the steady rhythm of my heart. Each touch, each glance, each whispered sigh resonated as a tribute to something extraordinary and exquisite. As our lips finally parted, I rested my forehead against hers, savoring the closeness, the intimacy of simply being together. Her fingers glided down my arm, a delicate caress that left a soft warmth in its aftermath. At that instant, everything else faded away. The world beyond could hold its breath. All that existed was the serene happiness we had discovered in one another. We rested in a cocoon of stillness, her warmth enveloping me like sunlight streaming through a window, the sheets wrapped around us, forming a gentle barrier that separated us from the outside world and the delicate sanctuary we had built. Her form pressed gently against me, her head resting softly on my shoulder, and I could feel her breath, slow and rhythmic, caressing my collarbone. It was more than mere physical proximity. It felt like our hearts had found a rhythm, pulsing together in serene unison. Her fingers glided softly, creating unseen designs on my skin, a caress so gentle it felt nearly undetectable. It was not arbitrary, there was a subtle intention behind it. A delicate language conveyed through the soft movement of her fingertips. Every circle, every line she drew sent a ripple through me, not of passion now, but of a deep, profound satisfaction. The room was enveloped in a gentle radiance, the subtle illumination creating delicate shadows that waltzed across the walls. Outside, the night whispered softly, the far-off rustling of leaves mingling with the sporadic hum of a car gliding by, yet within, it felt as though time had come to a complete standstill. There was no hurry, no stress. Just the two of us caught in this delicate, flawless moment. Her head shifted slightly against my shoulder, and I felt the soft strands of her hair brushing against my neck. The subtle aroma of her presence remained, a floral essence, fragile and undeniably hers. I took a deep breath, allowing it to envelop me like a soothing embrace, anchoring me in the here and now. It was peculiar how something so tiny could carry such weight, serving as a reminder of her existence in every conceivable way. Her breathing remained calm and even. Every breath, a gentle reminder of existence, of the pure delight found in our shared presence. I allowed my hand to wander to her back, my palm gently resting against the curve of her spine. Sensing the delicate rise and fall of her body with every breath she took. It was calming, reminiscent of the gentle rise and fall of the sea, and I couldn't help but be in awe of how instinctive, how seamless it felt to embrace her in this way. The serene joy that enveloped the space was beyond anything I had ever experienced. It wasn't the exhilarating surge of desire, or the transient excitement of the taboo. It was profound, more lasting, a profound tranquility that appeared to permeate my very being. I had devoted so much time to seeking something I couldn't articulate, and now, in this instant, I understood that I had discovered it. She stirred slightly, her fingers halting their idle patterns to rest against her arm, a gentle reassurance in its touch. I turned my head to place a kiss on her hair, a subtle expression of thanks for the comfort she had provided me. We lingered in that moment for what seemed like an eternity, wrapped in warmth and silence, communicating not through words, but through the profound essence of our being. In her embrace, I discovered not merely love but tranquility, a silence that flowed through me, awakening an appreciation for the simplicity of existence. The morning light filtered in gently, draping the room in a warm golden glow, and highlighting the serene calm we had cultivated. I awoke to the sound of her breathing, slow and even, a gentle rhythm that seemed to echo the tranquility of the night before. For a moment, I remained motionless, hesitant to disrupt the tranquility that surrounded us, relishing the unique tranquility that appeared to extend infinitely around us. Her hair cascaded over the pillow, reminiscent of silk threads, capturing the sunlight and shimmering with touches of gold. I observed how it framed her face, her features softened in slumber, unburdened by worry or hesitation. A gentle smile danced on her lips, hinting at a pleasant dream, and the mere sight of it washed over me with a wave of warmth. I fought the temptation to extend my hand and touch the strands of hair brushed away from her face. A quiet fear that even the slightest movement could shatter the enchantment of the moment. Instead, I permitted myself to merely gaze at her, to absorb the vision of her at her most unprotected. It was a portrait I knew I would hold onto for eternity, imprinted in my mind like a cherished photograph, the events of the night before played back in my mind, vibrant and full of life. Each caress, each softly spoken breath, every intimate moment of openness seemed like a hidden truth I had never realized I was meant to safeguard. The heaviness of existence lingered at the periphery of my mind. But I chose to keep it out, not just yet. This belonged to us, unspoiled by external influences, a recollection as delicate as it was invaluable. I adjusted my position a bit, mindful of not disturbing her, and supported myself on one elbow. The rays of the sun patterns adorned her skin, and I was captivated by the interplay of golden light against the delicate softness of her shoulder. She appeared utterly serene, completely at rest. And it hit me just how uncommon and such moments were fleeting. As I lay there, a calm assurance enveloped me. This wouldn't endure for eternity, this link. As beautiful and profound as it was, it belonged to a transient chapter. Reality would require us to retreat into the roles we once inhabited, to conceal this secret in a hidden nook of our hearts, shielded from the gaze of others, yet for the moment it sufficed. It was more than sufficient. This moment, this morning, belonged to us and us alone. It was not limited by the boundaries of time, or the regulations of the external world. It was pristine and unblemished, a warmth that I could hold on to even in the chilliest of days. I bent down and placed a gentle kiss on her forehead. A quiet vow that this moment would remain etched in time, regardless of what lay ahead. As I quietly slipped out of the bed, leaving her to her peaceful slumber, I realized that this was more than just a memory. It had become a part of me now, a truth that would eternally bring warmth from within. Enjoy this video and consider subscribing to Nasty Talks. Make sure to share this video with your friends on WhatsApp, so they can enjoy it as well. I appreciate your presence with me.